It started on a Tuesday morning. Gray clouds, coffee-stained shirts, and a factory floor humming with frustration. Weston Motors, a billion-dollar automotive empire, was at a standstill. The prototype engine, one that could revolutionize clean transport, refused to start. Engineers with decades of experience had spent weeks trying to solve the issue. Diagnostics failed, software glitched, nothing worked, and time was running out. Investors were due in 2 days. In the middle of the chaos stood Vincent Grant, the sharp-tongued, no-nonsense CEO. He was feared more than respected. His stare could quiet a room, and his expectations were legendary. After another failed test, he threw his tablet across the workshop. "This engine is a ghost," he snapped. "It's either haunted or we're idiots." From the corner of the room, someone chuckled, softly, nervously. It was June, the janitor's daughter. 17, small-framed, grease on her jeans, with eyes too curious for her own good. She'd been shadowing her father at the factory during school break, mopping floors while secretly watching the engineers from the sidelines. She loved engines, understood them in a way that was instinctive, almost poetic. "What's funny?" Vincent barked, turning toward her. June froze. Her father, Tom, stepped forward. "Sir, she didn't mean—" No, Vincent interrupted. He walked over, towering over her. "You think this is funny? Go ahead, Miss Einstein. Fix it." The room went silent. No one knew if he was being sarcastic or serious. June's heart pounded. "Do I have permission to try?" Vincent smirked. "By all means, show us." With trembling hands, she walked over to the table. The engine lay open like a puzzle no one could solve. She asked for a small toolkit. A young engineer handed it over, looking curious. June didn't guess. She listened. The way the parts clicked, the faint hum in the wiring, the temperature of the casing. 20 minutes passed, then 40. No one dared interrupt. Finally, she stepped back and nodded. "Try it now." Vincent folded his arms. "It's your funeral." He signaled the technician. The engine roared to life, not sputtered, not coughed, roared, clean, powerful, perfect, like it had been waiting for her all along. There was stunned silence, then cheering. Engineers ran over to see what she had done. June quietly explained the issue. A tiny synchronization bug in the control algorithm, amplified by a physical misalignment barely visible to the naked eye. Vincent stared at her like she was an alien. "How did you know?" She shrugged. "I watched, I listened. Machines talk if you let them." Later that evening, after most employees had left, Vincent sat in his office, replaying everything. In his mind, Tom entered cautiously, hat in hand. "Sir, about June. She didn't mean to interrupt." "Tom," Vincent said, softer than usual. "She saved the project. You both did." Tom looked down. "She's got no college degree, no fancy training." "I noticed," Vincent said. He paused. "She doesn't need one." The next morning, June was offered a full scholarship to any engineering program she wanted, funded by Weston Motors. But before she could respond, she asked to speak in the company's assembly hall. Hundreds gathered. Vincent watched from backstage. "I was just the janitor's daughter," she said, voice shaking. "I never thought anyone would take me seriously. But kindness can look like giving someone a chance. Letting them try. Believing they might have something to offer, even if they don't have a title or a degree. We all have something to contribute. Sometimes, all we need is a little space to prove it." The room stood in applause. From that day on, Weston Motors began a mentorship program, welcoming kids from overlooked communities. June became a symbol, not just of genius, but of hope. The company thrived not just because it innovated machines, but because it began to understand people. And Vincent, the CEO who once mocked a janitor's daughter, he often told the story with a proud smile and ended it the same way every time. She didn't just fix an engine, she fixed us. A week after the assembly speech, June stood at the edge of the factory floor, watching the prototype being loaded for its first real-world test run. The engineers who once barely noticed her now asked for her opinion. Some still looked surprised when she spoke, as if they couldn't reconcile her youth with her insight. But most had come to accept her, not as a novelty, but as a peer. She was still adjusting to the new rhythm, being taken seriously, being heard. Vincent approached her quietly. He had changed too. He'd started saying thank you more, asking questions instead of barking orders. He still ran the company with a sharp edge, but there was a softness now, like a storm that had learned to pause and listen before it struck. He looked at June for a moment before speaking. "You really planning to leave for school?" She smiled. "It's just a year. The university's letting me build a custom research track. I'll come back if you'll have me." He nodded. "We'll always have a place for you here, but promise me something." "Sure. Don't let anyone box you in, not even me." Her eyes met his, and for a moment they understood each other, not as CEO and intern or boss and janitor's daughter, but as two people who had both underestimated someone once. June promised, and they shook hands. A strange silence settled between them, not uncomfortable, but filled with things unsaid. Respect, maybe even admiration. Back home, Tom sat at the kitchen table, staring at the scholarship letter. "Never. Imagined I'd raise a girl smarter than every suit in that building." June laughed. "You always told me to figure things out, even when I was 8 and broke the blender." "That blender never stood a chance." She glanced at her father, his hands rough from decades of work, his shoulders stooped from years of unnoticed effort. "I want you to come with me to campus." "I wouldn't fit in there." "You didn't fit in Weston either. Still, you showed up every day. That's all this place needs." He looked down, his eyes moist. "You make it sound easy." "It's not, but it's possible." At the university, June found herself among professors twice her age, and students with longer resumes, but few had her clarity. When one professor questioned her unconventional approach to combustion mapping, she calmly dismantled his argument, with logic and evidence, ending with a respectful, "I understand your concerns, but the engine didn't." Her peers took note. Some whispered about the janitor girl with a billion-dollar brain. But to June, that title was no insult. It was her origin story. Back at Weston Motors, Vincent initiated new hires from non-traditional backgrounds, mechanics from rural towns, coders without degrees, kids who spent more time taking apart lawnmowers than sitting in classrooms. The company's culture shifted. Boardrooms echoed with stories of grit, not just GPAs. Innovation soared. So did morale. Months later, June returned for a prototype showcase. The room was packed, cameras ready. As she walked in, a kid about 10 years old ran up to her. "Miss June, I saw your engine online. I'm building one with my dad." She knelt beside him. "You don't need permission to be brilliant, okay?" He grinned and nodded, clutching a notepad filled with sketches. Later that night, she stood outside the factory, staring at the stars, hands stuffed in her jacket. Vincent joined her again, coffee in hand. "You did something most people spend a lifetime trying to do," he said quietly. "You made people believe." She looked at him. "All I did was fix an engine." He chuckled. "You gave us a reason to keep trying." They stood in silence, not needing more words. The lights from the factory glowed behind them, a reminder of what had been built, not just in metal but in mindset. Kindness had opened a door, courage had stepped through, and from that a future had taken shape. The story of the janitor's daughter spread across industries, classrooms, and dinner tables. Not because it was dramatic or flashy, but because it reminded people of something they already knew, that brilliance has no uniform, no title, no pedigree. Sometimes it just wears old jeans and holds a wrench with quiet confidence. And every time someone doubted themselves, every time a kid from a small town wondered if they mattered, they remembered June. Because her story wasn't just about fixing an engine. It was about fixing the way we see each other.